Hey guys, Halina here, and today I'm going to be looking at 15 fan theories about Disney villains that make a lot of sense. So, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm on Ranker.com looking at the list of 15 fan theories about Disney villains that make a lot of sense. So let's go through them and see which ones actually make sense. Okay, so up first we have Lady Tremaine is a Black Widow. And this is from Redditor user Iskyluck. Yeah, so I'm going to butcher a lot of these, and you know what? The link is in the description down below for this, so you can, figure out the Redditor users. Okay, so anyways, back to Lady Tremaine as a Black Widow. When the movie Cinderella began, the young girl's dad seemed perfectly healthy. Shortly after he married Lady Tremaine, he drops dead. This seems a bit too convenient for a single mother of two young girls, so it stands to reason the death wasn't as sudden and unexpected as it appeared. This theory suggests that Lady Tremaine is a Black Widow, which is a woman who marries a wealthy man, kills them, and inherits their estate. It makes more and more sense when you think about it. Where was Anastasia and Drusilla's father? He must have died sometime in the past, but maybe, just maybe, he was the first victim of the villainous Lady Tremaine, and she probably had her sights set on a young Cinderella as well. Yeah, this one makes a lot of sense. I wholeheartedly believe this one. This one is definitely very believable. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Maleficent assisted Aurora's mother to birth her. Ooh. Yay. So this comes from Redditor user Discipline of Keck. There's clearly a problem between the people in the palace and Maleficent when the sorceress appears at the celebration of Aurora's birth in Sleeping Beauty. It's apparent by the way everyone stares at her in horror. Everyone except for Queen Leah. The Queen had a more nervous expression, and this theory attempts to explain why she alone reacted that way. Maleficent may not have been invited, but she had a lot to do with the child's birth, and there are a few reasons why this is plausible. It's stated in the movie's intro that the king and queen had difficulty getting pregnant, so it stands to reason that the queen might have turned to magic for help. She turned to Maleficent and promised to acknowledge her in the court once the child was born, but in the end she went back on her word, and that's why Maleficent was so angry about not being invited and why she cursed the child at the celebration that she crashed. This one makes a lot of sense. Like, honestly, there are plenty of people in the real world that, have trouble getting pregnant, and they look to different means as to how to get a child of their own. And I mean, in terms of royalty and everything, with the line of succession being at risk, it definitely makes sense that the queen would go and turn to Maleficent for help in giving her a child, therefore carrying on the family's line of succession. Yeah, so it makes sense. Hades' flame / hair color represents his power / emotions. Okay. So this is from Redditor user SupaBlue. Technically, Hades is represented with hair made of blue flame, and he maintains this throughout most of the movie. Whenever his emotions change, so does his hairstyle, which means that this theory about the nature of his hair has a lot of visual cues supporting it. Whenever Hades is enraged, his hair gets red, yellow, and orange. The angrier he gets, the hotter and higher his hair extends atop his head. The theory goes on to suggest that the increase in hair height and intensity isn't a sign of his growing power, but of his power weakening. He's more dangerous when he's calm, cool, and collected. And when he's like that, his hair is blue. Hades' hair essentially offers a moral to the story. If you lose your temper, you only make yourself weaker. I never thought of this, but it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, he's basically, smarter and therefore more dangerous when he's got his blue hair. That's when he's calm, that's when he's cool, that's when he's collected, that's when he's thinking. But when he gets angry, he sort of becomes irrational. And that actually makes a lot of sense. I like that theory. Okay. Gaston is a representation of the beast if he never got turned into the beast. Gaston is a representation of the beast if he never got turned into the beast. Okay. So this is from Redditor user Canadian Shadow. Everyone knows Gaston is a jerk and a creep. That's made clear the minute he's introduced in Beauty and the Beast. But what if he's more than that? This theory suggests that Gaston is more than a village jerk. He is a representation of what the Beast would have become had he never turned into a hairier version of himself. Unfortunately, we have to call the Beast, whether it's the human version or otherwise, as he has no other name in the movie. Doesn't he, though? Wait, was Prince Adam the name that showed up after the movie? Sort of like Queen Grimhilda and Prince Florian, like, from Snow White? Like, does the Beast seriously not have a name? Okay, anyways, back to the theory. Despite this, he was once a man, and he was a callous jerk, much like Gaston. Yep. The theory offers 4 points to this fact. They both have blue eyes. So do I. So does a lot of people. Are we all callous jerks if we have blue eyes? Like, I don't know. They can both afford as many eggs as they want. What does this have to do with anything? They can both afford as many eggs as they want? What? They are narcissists who are all about their physical appearance. Okay, that one's true. And when Gaston died, a part of the Beast died as well. Ooh, that kind of makes sense. The last part. Anyways, the point before it also makes sense. The first two are random, and I'm not sure what this theory is trying to say. Like, are they trying to say that, like, Gaston and Beast are essentially, like, the same person? Are they trying to draw parallels? Because if they're trying to draw parallels, I'm all for believing it. If they're trying to tell me Beast and Gaston are the same person, I'm not buying it. I just don't know what this theory is trying to tell me. So, who knows? Sid became a garbage man to save toys from being thrown away. And this is from Redditor user London Garbage Man. I see the correlation. I do. Sid may have been the villain of the first Toy Story movie, but by the third film in the franchise, he'd grown up to become a garbage man, working in his neighborhood. While this may have appeared as a little more than a cameo to a few eagle-eyed viewers, it was far more if this theory has any credence. In the first film, he's shown that all the toys he'd been tearing apart for years were alive, and he freaked out. 15 years later, he's a local garbage man, and he picks out anything he finds of value. For Sid, it's toys. He chose the job that would give him access to used and thrown out toys, so that he can rescue them as a continued penance for his actions as a child. I like this theory. I think it definitely makes sense. I mean, Sid was a kid when he essentially got traumatized by the revelation that the toys were alive. And I think that definitely could have put him on the path of wanting to help the toys make up for what he did in childhood, because he's so traumatized by the fact that these toys that he had essentially spent his childhood demolishing, were alive just like him, and that freaked him out. So, yeah, I definitely think that this is very plausible. Captain Hook is a former Lost Boy. I love this theory so much. I really do. So this is from Redditor user Reuven95. It's established fairly soon in Peter Pan that the Lost Boys and Captain Hook don't get along. Hook hates Peter Pan especially, and the two groups have been in conflict for a very long time. But why? It's never really gone into outside of the missing hand on Hook's wrist, but there's more to it if this theory has any merit. What if, some time ago, a group of Lost Boys, led by the boy who would become Hook, rebelled against Peter and the Lost Boys? They might even have gone to the real world where they grew up, but eventually returned to Never Never Land as adults. They took up piracy and continued their conflict with the Lost Boys. I absolutely love this theory. I can believe this theory. I also love the theory that Hook is a former Lost Boy who is trying to save the current Lost Boys from the tyrannical Peter Pan. Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Yeah. King Candy was a cancelled character that was once in development. Now this comes from Redditor user Olympus Man. So, in Wreck-It Ralph, we find that King Candy is none other than Turbo, a character from an Unplugged game who went insane. I don't know why I read that as missing. He went insane. According to the movie, Turbo hijacked Sugar Rush, broke into the game's code room, and transformed himself into a figure known as King Candy. There's an aspect of this that is overlooked by most viewers, but this theory takes a deeper look into King Candy and how he wound up in the game. If Turbo hacked his way into Sugar Rush and messed with the code to take over the role of King Candy, that character would have had to be part of the game's original code. That essentially means that the game developed initially planned on having King Candy as a character in Sugar Rush, but never finished him. Turbo came along, messed with the code, and took over the role. But he wouldn't have been able to do that directly. After all, how much does an 8-bit character really know about hacking a modern arcade machine's code? He could only modify what he had found, and that's why it's clear that King Candy's code was there all along. True. I believe this completely. I don't, like, the characters in Wreck-It Ralph, whether it's Ralph and Felix and, like, Vanellope and all the little Sugar Rush gang, or just, like, really anybody, like, all the characters in the Wreck-It Ralph universe, from Wreck-It Ralph or Ralph Breaks the Internet, they are all very aware of everything that's going on. They know that they're in a game, they know they have a role to play. They may not like the role that they're forced to play, but they know that they have the role to play, they know that they're in a game, and once the arcade closes, they are essentially free to be whoever they want to be. I think, despite all of that, I don't think a character in the Wreck-It Ralph universe would be able to figure out how to create a whole new character in a game. And then on top of all that, modify all the other characters' memories. Like, I feel like King Candy, you know, had to have existed. Like, there's no way that Turbo would have been able to essentially create King Candy in this game. Like, he had to be some sort of player prior, but, you know, maybe never made it into the final version of the game. I know for me, I would not be able to figure out how to create a whole new character. So, yeah, I don't think a little character would have been able to figure it out. Why Scar didn't run when Simba gave him the chance. Okay. This comes from Redditor user Capricious Salmon? I don't know. At the end of Lion King, when Simba confronts his uncle Scar, Scar has the option to run, but opts to stay and fight for the throne. He could have run away and plotted some scheme to usurp the throne once more, but instead he chooses to stay, which results in his death. This theory suggests that the reason Scar didn't turn tail and run wasn't because he needed to fulfill some grand scheme or anything so detailed. It was because he honestly didn't think that Simba was better or stronger than he was. Simba offered when he said, "Run, Scar, and never return." That was a challenge, and Scar decided to accept it by remaining, but that was ultimately what did him in. And it's all because Scar simply cannot comprehend what is good and wholesome by this point in the movie. He's too corrupt and evil to recognize the danger that he's in upon Simba's return. This makes so much sense. Like, Scar is like a huge egomaniac. Like, he thinks that, like, he's like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that nobody can beat him. Like, he killed his brother. He basically threatened his nephew. He had the entire pride believing that, you know, both Mufasa and Simba were dead, and he did everything that he could to save them, but he just couldn't. Like, everything was working out in Scar's favor up until that point. So he definitely thought when Simba came back, like, okay, like, there's no way my nephew is going to be able to defeat me. Like, I'm obviously better than him. So, yeah, I'm just gonna stay and I'm gonna fight him and I'm gonna win, and everybody's gonna see that I am the greatest thing ever, and they will all respect me even more. So, yeah, it makes sense. Sid is short for Sydney, which is an anagram for Disney. But, like, why? Okay, I'm confused. But, alright, let's figure this out. Okay, Redditor user, the Ramble Mammal. That's where this one comes from. This theory is far more meta than most, but it makes a lot of sense when you pick Sid's appearance in Toy Story apart. Okay. Shortly before Toy Story was made, John Lasseter was fired from Disney. He then created Pixar and named the film's villain Sid, which is short for Sydney, an anagram of Disney. Okay. Now I'm seeing the correlation. Okay. Man, I can't believe that didn't dawn on me before. Yeah. Okay. Alright, I see it. I see it. Is this reaching? Perhaps. But it's well known how angry Lasseter was with the House of Mouse when he left his employ. Both Sid and Disney keep their toys, or their films, locked away in a vault and release them periodically for their own interests. Yeah, and then Disney Plus happened and all that basically went out the window. The theory goes into a lot of detail with a bunch of comments, but the TLDR, I still don't know what that means, is simple. John Lasseter stuck it to Walt Disney by naming a mean little brat as an anagram of his former employer. This actually makes sense. This actually makes sense. In some weird meta way, but it does. And I'm gonna say it's plausible. I feel like all of these are plausible, and like this is probably gonna be a very boring video of me just agreeing to everything. But yeah, anyways, Scar's decisions made no difference to the pride's fertility. This is from Redditor user Sherazade? I don't know. In The Lion King, we see an interpretation of Shakespeare's Hamlet, played out with lions and other animals. But more than that, we see the intricacies of pride dominance and the true hierarchical structure found in lions' prides. Scar takes over and employs the hyenas as his muscle, but this theory says that it wouldn't have made any difference to the local ecosystem. One of the biggest reasons the seasons and the fact that the movie begins in the spring. The lands are fertile and all is well. As the movie continues, things dry up, just as they do in real life in African savannas. And when Simba returns, it's the following spring. The monsoon comes, and the land is fertile once more, and the Pride Lands are returned to their natural beauty, just as they are every year. Essentially, all of the death and decay we see while Simba is away is simply the result of the seasons changing, and Scar, with his hyena groupies, didn't do much of anything to degrade the lands as much as we were led to believe. This actually makes a lot of sense. Like, I know I keep saying that, but it actually does. Like, there's a lot of theories about, like, how, when Simba came back, that's when the monsoon happened, and it was like, oh, the rightful heir is back, we can restore everything back to normal. You know, the phony king is dead, the real king is back. But this makes sense. Yeah. This makes so much sense. Gaston is in denial about his own sexuality. Okay. So this comes from Redditor user ActualButt. Gaston is all about Belle in Beauty and the Beast, but his relentless pursuit of the village's most beautiful young maiden isn't as clear as it may appear. It seems pretty clear. This theory suggests that the main reason Gaston is so interested in Belle isn't because he's actually attracted to her. Rather, he's gay and in denial about his sexuality. Okay. He therefore believes that the best way to show the village that he's a man's man is to go after the village's most desirable girl. He's overcompensating and in denial, but there's one factor about going after Belle that works in his favor, and it's that he knows that she will never give in to his advances. That leaves him in the clear to continue pursuing a woman he has no interest in while appearing as macho as possible to everyone else in the village. Okay. This one I'm on the fence about. This one I'm not 100% sure that it's plausible. But I'm also not 100% sure it's not. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And I never actually really thought of it that way. But it actually kind of does make a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I mean, Belle is great. Like, she's beautiful, she's smart. He's not. And he has all these girls basically, like, falling over themselves to be with him, like, just, like, waiting for, like, the moment that he says, like, I want to be with you. And yet he doesn't go after any of them. And, well, arguably they're not as pretty as Belle. They are still beautiful. They are in love with him. So if Belle keeps rejecting him, why does he keep trying to pursue her? I also think this could be a symptom of him being an egomaniac and thinking she will love me because I am the greatest thing that has ever walked the planet, and eventually she will realize that, and I'm gonna make sure that she never forgets it. But it could be. I'm gonna go no. I'm gonna go he's just an egomaniac who thinks that Belle should love him because she's great, he's great, and they can both be great together. Yeah. Hans was bewitched by the trolls to be evil. Yes, this age-old theory. Okay. So this comes from Redditor user Individual Mushroom 3. This theory takes a look at Hans and Kristoff via the magical manipulation of the trolls, who are the true sources of evil in the film. What we saw was Hans falling in love with Anna, and everything was working out great. But he turns on her and becomes the bad guy. He was on the other side all the way up the mountain, even going so far as to deflect a crossbow bolt at the risk of his own life. When he gets back to Arendelle, he's a villain. So, he must have run into the trolls along the way, and through their magic, they mind-wiped him and turned him into a bad guy. Why would they do this, you might ask? Well, it's all about Kristoff, who had a friendly relationship with the trolls. You mean was a child when the trolls essentially found him and took him and just didn't bother to try to find out whether or not he had a family or not. Yeah, the trolls aren't great. The trolls wanted Anna to marry Kristoff and not Hans, so they got involved and did what they did for their own malevolent purposes. Okay. Do I think the trolls are great? No. Do I like the theory that, like, they're behind all of this? Yes. Do I think it's plausible? No. The idea of this actually kind of makes sense because, like, there's the clear moment when, you know, Hans falls into the water and then he looks at Anna, like, through the boat, but she's, like, already, like, walking away, and he, like, smiles at her, and it's not like this, like, villainous, like, oh yes, I got her type of smile. It's like, oh, I really like her. And then, like, later on when she needs saving, it's like, oh no, I never loved you. All of this was a manipulation. It was a complete 180, and I could have definitely believed that Hans was, like, truly evil and manipulating everything if we hadn't had that moment with him under the boat. But I don't know, maybe, like, he did, like, have some sort of feelings towards her, but not enough for it to be, like, true love or anything like that. And I don't think it's plausible that the trolls are behind all of this, but I could be wrong, so who knows. Okay. Jafar was just a middleman. For who? For Iago? For evil Iago? Maybe because Iago talks, Iago's a person. Or he's just a Disney animal, and Disney animals can talk. But who the hell would Jafar be a middleman for? I'm confused. Okay. This comes from Redditor user CTW Studios. Jafar was clearly the main antagonist in Aladdin. Yeah, that was pretty clear. But what if everything wasn't what it seemed? He was the guy who had to have the lamp, and had attempted to get it for years. But did you ever notice that he didn't really know what to do with it once he got it? This theory dives into his actions and points out the fact that his wishes were all shot from the hip. You would think that a guy who was obsessed with finding a magical lamp that could bestow 3 wishes would have them written down somewhere. I mean, yeah. Like, he knew what the lamp did. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm going to find this, like, lamp that everybody's talking about or whatever, and then he finds out that it grants him wishes, and he's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going with it. Like, he knew that the lamp granted wishes, so why? Okay. Yeah, it is odd, and I think maybe he could be a middleman, but, like, for who? I don't know. I'm going to read the rest of this and we'll figure out what's happening. The reason he wasn't able to handle his wishes properly when he got the lamp was due to the fact that he was working for someone else. All along, his plan was to get the lamp for some unseen master. But when he finally got a hold of it, he was immediately corrupted and used it to attain power for himself, ultimately resulting in his undoing. So who was this unseen master? After eliminating a bunch of characters, user CTW Studios determines that it must be Jasmine. No? Like, okay, I keep getting ahead of myself with this one, but I'm going to read the rest of this and then go back to the whole Jasmine thing. Eliminating these key players leaves but one choice. Jasmine, the smartest person in the film. She sees the strings that control the system. She never actually has control of the lamp, and is the only character that would benefit from keeping up appearances while searching for the lamp. Her incompetent father wields all the power in the kingdom, so she can't send hordes in search of the lamp. And why else would Jafar be infatuated with her? She's his boss, and he has a real power fetish going on. Then she just happens to fall in love with the person who owns the very object that she's been searching for? Yeah, right. She could tell from the first meeting Aladdin wasn't royalty. Okay. So first I'm going to address the whole why else would Jafar be infatuated with her? He's a dude. She's a beautiful girl. Spoiler alert, that's kind of all it takes is you just have to be attracted to someone, and typically you're attracted to beautiful looking people. Whether you're a girl that's attracted to a guy, or a guy that's attracted to a girl, or a girl that's attracted to a girl, or a guy that's attracted to a guy, like, they just have to be beautiful in your eyes, and that's all it takes. And Jasmine, I mean, like all the other Disney princesses, very beautiful, and so yeah, Jafar would be attracted to her. And she just happens to fall in love with Aladdin, who now possesses the lamp that she's been searching for. Again, attractive, beautiful dude. So, yeah. That's how this happens. Okay. Do I think Jafar could have been a middleman? Sure. I'll buy it. But I buy it more that it's Iago that he's the middleman for than I do that it's Jasmine. Because yeah, Jasmine's not, too keen on marrying any of the princes that walk through the castle and everything like that. Like, she's like, nah, that's not for me. I don't want to marry these, dudes that just, they don't understand me or anything like that. Like, she doesn't want that. But I don't get it. Like, how did we end up here? How do we end up that Jasmine is the mastermind of all of this? Like, yes, Jasmine is smart. No, Jasmine doesn't want to marry the creepy princes that are walking through. But to sit there and be like, well, Jafar is attracted to Jasmine, and Jasmine is attracted to Aladdin because it all has to do with the lamp? No. No. And I think even if Jafar had the lamp, Jasmine would not be attracted to Jafar because Jafar is creepy. Right? So, Jafar being attracted to Jasmine makes sense. She's beautiful, and he's like, oh, I see that. Jasmine being attracted to Aladdin. Again, he is gorgeous. So, yes, it makes sense. Aladdin being attracted to Jasmine. Again, for the same reason as Jafar. Beautiful woman. Straight dude. Like, how did we get here? I'm starting to be happy that we got to this point, because now I have, like, theories that I can actually sit there and say are not plausible, because I've been sitting here saying a lot of these are plausible. This one, no. The truth of Yzma's origins. I feel like I said oranges. Origins. This is from Redditor user Amreas? I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong again. So if you want to read the detailed theory about the truth of Yzma's origins, you can pick apart the theory here. Okay, so there's a link to the very long theory in the site, which I am linking below. So yeah, you can go check out the whole theory in that. I'm not going to go through it because it's long and it's detailed. But another Redditor user summed it up nicely with the following. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try not to get sidetracked reading this, but we'll see. Number 1. Actually, I'm not going to say the numbers. I'm just going to go through it. Yzma used to love Cusco's grandfather and was rejected. She tried to make a potion to end her suffering, but it backfired. She worships Hades. Hades commissioned Yzma's father to make the potion that turned Hercules mortal. Megra is a younger version of Yzma. We'll circle back to that later. After Hercules kills his and Meg's children, and almost her, she is saved by Hades, is pushed into complete madness from the ordeal, and returns to the Incan Empire to live as Yzma for the rest of her days. She maintains her love of muscle guys, see Kronk, but now prefers them to be a little less bright. Okay. So I was with this theory. I was right there with it. Yzma used to love Cusco's grandfather and was rejected. Plausible. She tried to make a potion to end her suffering, but it backfired. Plausible. She worships Hades. Of course she does. Hades commissioned Yzma's father to make a potion that turned Hercules mortal. Plausible. Megra is a younger version of Yzma. That's where you lose me. Yzma is Meg? I know that there was a Hercules TV show. Now, I haven't actually watched it. But it is on my watch list for Disney Plus. Meg and Hercules have children? Or are we trying to pull in real Greek mythology into this and not tie it to Hercules from Disney? Because that's where it sounds like we're going. That we're kind of hanging out in that territory. But, because I don't remember Hercules and Meg having kids in Disney proper. I also don't think they would have it that Hercules would kill the children. Or Meg. So I'm thinking we're hauling in real Greek mythology, which is weird because why are we trying to do that? I'm gonna say no. I've spent way too much time on this theory. I'm gonna go no. Like, just no. Syndrome is alive and Jack Jack is not who we think he is. Oh boy, are we gonna try to say Jack Jack is Syndrome? Okay. This is from Redditor user Spoodern. So, this theory takes a look at some of the bonus content released on the Incredibles DVD and Blu-ray and digs deep to uncover a shocking truth about Syndrome. He's alive, and Jack Jack isn't who he appears to be. At the end of the first film, Syndrome is killed, and Jack Jack safely returns to his family. That appeared to be the happy ending, but what if it wasn't? Oh gosh. We don't know much about Syndrome. But at the beginning of the movie, Mr. Incredible tells the cops to take him, Buddy, back to his mother to tell her what he's been doing. What if his mother was actually Psych Wave, the most intelligent super, and one of the first Syndrome killed? What if one of her powers was to pass on her essence to another person, and she somehow passed this ability to her son, and when he died, he passed his own essence into Jack Jack? He could become the villain in plain sight for the third film, making Syndrome one of the most insidious people in any Disney movie. He took over the body of an adorable infant. Okay, so we waited 15 years for Incredibles 2. Do we actually believe on any level that there's going to be an Incredibles 3? Like, on any level, do we believe that? Because I don't. Incredibles was great. Incredibles 2 was good. I don't think they need to keep creating Incredibles movies. I think we're good. I think we're good there. If Syndrome is in Jack Jack, that is a horrifying thought. Like, that is a horrifying thought. I don't think it's true. I think Syndrome is dead. I think, if they were going to do anything like that, that Incredibles 2 would have been the time to do it. I think they definitely could have jumped ahead a good chunk of years and have Jack Jack be older and then start acting bizarrely because Syndrome is essentially inside Jack Jack. I think that could have been a very interesting plot twist in Incredibles 2. I don't think this would even happen if we got Incredibles 3, which I don't think we're going to get. But, I mean, fan fiction? I don't know. I don't believe it. So that is the list of 15 fan theories that are in relation to the villains of Disney movies. Some of them I think are believable, some of them are not. Let me know which ones you think are believable, which ones you don't think are believable. Let me know which one was the most bizarre one you thought, and please, somebody explain the Yzma theory to me, because that one just about broke my brain. And do you think Jasmine is the big mastermind behind the whole, I guess, the whole Aladdin movie? Like she's the mastermind behind everything that happens? Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload my latest videos. Follow me on other socials, the link is in the description down below, and I will see you all in another video. Bye guys.